Hello there, YouTube. It's your boy B3, back with another kicking graphic novel review. Today we are looking at Infinite Frontier from DC Comics 2021. Let me just go ahead and read you the back of the book. Wonder Woman and the heroes of the DCU saved the multiverse from Perpetua in Dark Knight's Death Metal, which we have reviewed, and restored a lost history. But it came with a cost. Darkseid has returned with more power than ever, and new, dangerous mysteries have been unleashed on the multiverse. Where is Barry Allen? How is Roy Harper, aka Arsenal, alive? Who took the Justice Society? Who is the new Black Lantern? And why is Flashpoint Batman lost in the multiverse? It's going to take an unlikely team of heroes to solve these mysteries. Alan Scott, the Green Lantern from the Justice Society of America, and his son Obsidian, along with President Superman and the multiversal heroes called Justice Incarnate, are all that stands between Darkseid and a new crisis. Lord. From all-star creators including writer Joshua Williamson and artist Zermancio Jesus Marino? And Paul Pelletier. This volume collects Infinite Frontier 0 through 6 and Infinite Frontier Secret Files, number 1. Okay, so we if you're a big DC Comics reader, you'll remember this time in DC Comics we had Doomsday Clock, which is an upcoming review, which kind of brought a lot of the stuff back to continuity that people missed. It brought back the Justice Society. It brought back Superman's parents. It brought back the Legion of Superheroes, which I didn't personally care about, but I did like the return of Clark Kent Superboy, I'll admit. And a lot of people saw that as a good fix. And then immediately, Dark Knight's Death Metal happened and changed everything again. Gave us the Omniverse. And that was, I mean, they were big continuity rewrites, which are technically what crises are at this point. I don't know if I'd call Doomsday a crisis event, but Dark Knight's Death Metal was 100% a crisis, even if that wasn't in the name. And then they have this, which leads into immediately another crisis called Dark Crisis, which is a sequel to Crisis on Infinite Earths. The full title is Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. What the fuck, DC? I haven't read Dark Crisis, to be completely honest. Zero interest. I'll read it eventually, because I read all the line-wide events eventually. But, holy shit, who cares? Who the fuck gives a shit? This Infinite Frontier, you gotta give it a little slack, because DC actually was going to something called 5G, not Infinite Frontier. Then coronavirus happened, and it threw a wrench in everything they had planned. And this is just kind of what they scraped together, I guess. I don't know. It's rushed. It's definitely a rushed, sloppy book. I hate to say it, but it is. As much as I love Darkseid and President Superman and everything, it's a lot. So at the end of Dark Knight's Death Metal, Wonder Woman ascends to cosmic godhood. She becomes an entity of truth to protect the universe. And she does this to save the multiverse, which is now an omniverse. And in order to do it, she has to give up, being just a person. She has to give up her friends and her family, leave her reality and all she knows to ascend and work with the quintessence and whatnot as the truth. And this is played up as a big sacrifice in Dark Knight's Death Metal, which it is. But then in this book, she immediately changes her mind and goes back to being Wonder Woman. But there's no real consequences to it. Yeah, the quintessence is killed as soon as she does that. But she probably would have just been killed with him if she would have stayed around. Especially with Darkseid's new crazy levels of power. It's almost like this is the true Darkseid. The whole Grant Morrison-y true Darkseid thing. Where he's like a dimension and all the other Darkseids are proxy. This almost feels like it's the Darkseid that makes the proxies given flesh. That's how powerful this dude is. Crazy new powerful Darkseid. They want to hide that it's Darkseid from you a little bit. But I mean, they tell you on the back of the book, so I guess they weren't hiding it that well. Also, Darkseid's right in the... he's most of the cover of the trade. So, yeah. Anyway, Wonder Woman gives up being the truth, which has no repercussions, even though we were told it would in Dark Knight's death metal. And she goes back to Earth. I mean, we all knew that would happen eventually. I didn't think it would be immediately. I mean, dear Lord. Holy shit. For fuck's sake. At least give us a year or something. And it sets up all this DC stuff, I guess. Like, new stuff with Black Adam, and because he had a movie coming out at the time. And then new stuff with, like, some of the fascist, like, peacemakers from Batman. They're from the James Tynion run, which was really good. James Tynion IV, one of my favorite comic writers of all time. Great run. I don't remember how much of it I've reviewed. I might not have reviewed any of it. I've definitely reviewed some of it. Right? I'll review the whole thing eventually. But we find out, like, Bane's dead, and there's the big Joker attack on Arkham. You know, Grifter's there, even though nobody gives a shit about Grifter. If it ain't Midnighter and Apollo, I don't give a fuck. Sorry, Wildstorm. We see stuff about a new Wonder Woman and whatnot, and a new Wonder Girl. But, you know, their introductions mean a lot less when at the end of the issue, Wonder Woman just immediately returns. You know? However, throughout this book, I do actually really like all the stuff with Alan Scott, Jade, and Obsidian. I've been a big Alan Scott fan forever. And I really like Jade, and I know a little less about Obsidian, but I like him. You know? I think he's actually very interesting. Kind of interesting contrast of powers to his father and sister. You know? And you got stuff about Titans Academy and Jonathan Kent's Superman. And I really like Jonathan Kent's Superman, but it would have been nice to watch him grow up with Damian. That's all I'm going to say. A little stuff about Stargirl in there, which is because Stargirl, I believe, also had a TV show around this time. A lot of this is just promoting media outside of the comics. I'm not going to lie. A little stuff about Green Lantern. I'm very behind on Green Lantern. That used to be like my #1 book. I used to read everything Green Lantern. But I'm so behind on the Lanterns. I gotta catch up. One big thing that happens, Barry Allen tells Wally that he wants Wally to be the main Flash on Earth, which is good, because Wally West is the Flash I grew up with. I really like that. I like Wally West a lot. But I also like Barry Allen a lot. It's actually very difficult for me to choose a favorite Flash between them. Incredibly difficult for me. They're both so great in their own ways. But having Barry being the Flash of the multiverse and going on multiversal adventures, and having Wally be the Flash on Earth, is actually a really good idea. And a great way to keep them both relevant and doing their own thing. It's really smart. Really liked it. Barry also gets trapped in some kind of weird dark simulation. We also have Director Bones. He's a guy that's got, like, cyanide skin that's invisible, so you see his skeleton, but he has his organs and skin and muscle and everything. It's just that's all invisible, and you can only see his skeleton. It's very interesting, and I actually really enjoyed him, and I always enjoy President Superman as well. Justice Incarnate's okay. Most of the appeal of Justice Incarnate to me is President Superman and Captain Carrot. The rest of them are honestly whatever. We get a lot about Roy Harper. He's back from the dead. He doesn't know why. Turns out he is the new Black Lantern. It's almost like telling us that on the back of the book. Makes it very easy to connect the dots. And it was very easy to connect the dots. But he's more than a Black Lantern. He's something kind of new. Which is very... It actually is interesting, but it is also a little confusing and convoluted. You know? Though, I did like Mr. Bones, or Director Bones' encounter with this hulked out Captain Boomerang who had these bony protrusions growing through him that he could take out and throw like boomerangs. That was fucking rad. And it was a funny and also really cool encounter. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. That was just a fun part of the book. Anyway, continuing onward, we see Psycho Pirate doing stuff. I'm also a big Psycho Pirate fan. I think he's very, very entertaining, and he kind of gets picked up by Darkseid. Flashpoint Batman crashes on a farm like Superman did in like a space pod, and it seems like he's going to be the Batman of Justice Incarnate, which I do think actually happened in the Justice Incarnate series. I haven't read it, but I did recently acquire it, I think. What happens is, during like Black Friday and Cyber Monday and stuff at the end of the year, I get a ton of books, and then I read them over the course of the next year until the next Black Friday and stuff. So I believe it's in my pile, though. I have a lot of books. Too bad for me. Oh well. But, all kinds of crazy stuff is happening with Psycho Pirate, really just being great. And the book does start to get a little confusing, and there are a lot of characters that you need to know. And if you don't know them, you could end up pretty confused. Especially like some of these other characters, Like, and this is also at the time where Clark Kent had revealed his identity, which is kind of relevant. Anyway, Agent Chase Cameron is in this. I didn't know who the hell she was, so that really confused me. I had to look up who she was for all this. We get Flashpoint Batman running around with Justice League Incarnate, which wasn't nearly as entertaining as I'd hoped it was, and there's just all this multiversal, jumpy aroundy. Can we just give the multiverse like a rest? Can the multiverse just take a break? I mean, multiverse stories like this will always be welcome as long as the story is good. Like, look at both the Spider-Verse movies. They're incredible pieces of high art. Beautiful, magnificent movies that I could just watch over and over and over and over and over again. Do you know I cried watching the second one in theaters? Incredible movies. But then there's stuff like this that's just slapped together. And it's like... Like, what am I supposed to do? Clap because Flashpoint Batman is on screen? Because that kind of seems like what they expect me to do. Just clap because he's there. And yeah, he helps solve and all this stuff. It's just a confusing mess. And it's like, oh, but Final Crisis is a confusing mess and you liked that. Yeah, but it's confusing in like an artistic way. Does that make sense? This is confusing in a they slapped it together kind of way. Final Crisis is confusing in a super complex, it's more interesting every time you read it kind of way. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense. But it's clear that there is a clear vision for Final Crisis. But there wasn't one for this book, I don't feel like. It's just a mess. And admittedly also a lot of the paneling is super just bland and average, except for when Psycho Pirate is doing something. He like walks around the panels, which looks fine, but like Gwenpool and others have done it better. Like She-Hulk did that better. Just and there's like a bunch of redrawn iconic images, like Superman breaking the chains, but it's President Superman and they're like darkness chains. It's a weird event. I'm not even sure you can call it an event because it's not. I just don't know. Infinite Frontier is a confusing mess with good art, admittedly, and it brings a lot of fun characters into the mix, but it's just more multiverse porn. It just feels like multiverse porn sold to us as like an event to introduce us to this new world, but it's actually just to introduce us to another event you have to buy. It's a waste of time. I don't recommend buying it. I don't. At all. And I know I didn't explain a crazy amount of stuff in it, but that's because this video would take forever and it would be unsatisfying for all of us. Trust me. I say maybe just watch like a... I never say this, but maybe just watch a complete storyline video from some YouTuber. Because I found it boring. If you need to know what's in it so that you can understand Dark Crisis and you want to read Dark Crisis, go ahead. If you don't have any interest in reading Dark Crisis, honestly, you can just completely fucking skip this, probably. And then a lot of books are going to recap a lot of things that are in here anyway. You'll be fine. But that's it. Thank you all very much for your support. Remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out all the cool links in the description below, Facebook, Twitter, etc. I'll be seeing you all next time. Bye for now.